Sellers right now that still think they're gonna get a huge amount of house because that's dramatic.
So that's what we're going to talk about.
No, even before, like, I look at the line when you know that it isn't gonna go for.
Well, that's what I mean. That's one of the things we're going to talk about. I think part of it is that we are very reactive to our market. We're like basically chasing it around and not being proactive of like, there's like that quote, it's like a Wayne Gretzky quote where it's like, you know, good hockey players go where the puck is, great hockey players go where the puck is going. And I think it's something like that. It's probably not. Okay, you get the point. So I think we need to be more of the Wayne Gretzky mindset where we need to go where the market is going. And I think we need to really educate our sellers when we're taking listings of how important that is. Their days of, 25 offers in the first day, waiving inspections and paying over appraised value. I'm sorry that they can like RIP, like have a mourning ceremony, whatever they want to do. And I think that's honestly one of the first conversations you should have with them. I mean, maybe you don't start out with doom and gloom, but I definitely think it's part of a conversation before their house ever hits the market. Okay, so just some statistics because I like statistics and I was just curious about this. Oh gosh. So according to NAR, during the month of June, this is June of this year, 1 out of every 7 homes had a price reduction. And then I thought this was included in the article. So I started reading it and then it says below are the 10 cities with the biggest share of price cuts among listed properties in June, according to realtor.com. Do you guys see a market on there that might affect you? I was surprised, to be quite honest, to see it on there.
It's kind of like at a certain price point, because I've been working with buyers primarily looking for starter homes. And if you're still below that 300K mark, I mean, I've got some that we've put offers in for weeks and we can't.
Yeah, no, I think there are still some markets that are like unaffected. Maybe they're not unaffected by it completely, but they're not seeing like the pain that I think like where I think our market is going to suffer is where it always suffers first is expensive older homes.
Yeah, with weird layouts.
Yeah, weird layouts. Still got wood, super nice, but still has wood windows. Yeah, sure. But the statistic came from Anchorage, not from our market. So they don't have many homes under 300,000. And the ones they do have in Anchorage under 300,000, you do not want. Have you ever been in a home under 300,000 in Anchorage?
We're offering and it was in Mountain View at 225 for some of my clients who've been trying to snag.
Oh, it is Anchorage.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I nearly worked in Anchorage with my former team and you still can't get junk under 300.
Interesting.
So is that?
No, it was on Price Street in Mountain View. Little, like, it was 5 bedroom, 2 bath house, older, built in like 1971. Yeah, it was multiple offers and it was like a large office.
I think even some of the price ranges above that in Anchorage are even experiencing that still a little bit. Like Bonnie and I kind of shared a client. And I remember they would say, oh, this house is not going to, like this was a buyer, but this house isn't going to sell for this. Like if we were going to buy, we want to think about it. They want to think about everything for a long time, which is why Bonnie came in and helped me and saved me. They're super cool people. But the one house, the very first house I ever showed them, they're like, it will never sell for this. And it sold for $50,000 more. And this was just a couple of months ago. And it was $450. And I think it sold for almost $500, which was wild. I thought that would help Bonnie out, but maybe it didn't. Okay. I still can't find my clicker. Okay. So 12 months ago, I would have told you that there are 2 parts to selling a home. Now I think there's 3. Before I would have told you, you got to get the buyer to agree to the price. You got to get the lender to agree to the price, which is essentially the appraiser. But now I think your first job is really to get the seller to agree to what otherwise you're not going to sell it. Maybe there are some unique situations in our market right now where overpriced listings would sell, but I do not believe we're in a market where they can afford to overprice their house. Does anybody have any comments on that? Has anybody seen any issues lately with appraisals still? I think that's like the interesting part about our market.
Me.
Oh gosh. Hi. Oh, that was loud, Cindy.
I'm sorry. I'll turn it down. I don't know how to turn it down.
No, you're okay. You're fine. It just caught me off guard.
Sorry. The appraiser.
had
I
issues
just
with
talked to you
appraisals?
about the appraisal. Yeah, I just talked to you about it. We're still dealing with it. With
Well,
the
that's a
appraiser
weird
for the house
appraisal
in
issue.
Palmer. Yeah.
That's a weird,
See?
that's not a value issue though, right?
No, well, he did agree to at value when he heard the situation with it being staying in the family and the ex and all of that, but he still will not, he will still not change his appraisal to say as is with the item still in the crawl space.
So the issue, this has nothing to do with price reductions, but the issue is, and Jeremiah, you might think this is an interesting one. But they replaced the boiler and the water heater, I think, and they left them in the crawl space. Common thing, right? Common-ish.
Yeah.
I mean, I see them in crawl spaces all the time because I go in a lot of crawl spaces and I see them in crawl spaces all the time. And the appraiser is saying, no, that is debris. And they're saying it still works. It's a backup. I don't know if that's true or not.
Usually they install water heaters, which are wider than the 24x24 open to the crawl space, and you can't get them out unless you cut them apart.
And they're like interpreting debris in the FHA guidelines a little bit different. It's the appraiser.
That's
Because I called another appraiser about it and she said absolutely she would never call that. But then she's like, I know why. Oh, we're talking bad about appraisers here. Hi, Mackenzie. No, she okay. I haven't had any of my appraisals come in low lately, but I have noticed more contracts that I'm reviewing having contracts prices 10-ish under list price. That's interesting.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
She just did an appraisal, I haven't gotten back yet, so that means it's at value.
Yeah. Just shot yourself in the foot. No, I'm just joking. Okay. Yeah, which is, I mean, that's a little bit different for what we've seen in our market lately. Okay, so I think this conversation of price reductions needs to start at, I hate how you have to move this around all the time. I think the conversation really needs to start at the point we take the listing. Has that been a conversation you guys have been having with your clients? Like we're just recently, or were you having that conversation with them 12 months ago? I would say the conversation that was like 12 months ago is like, don't worry about painting that ugly orange wall. Let's just get it on the market. Let's go. And now you're like, not everybody likes orange. Maybe we should return that to a neutral color. Like, I think the conversations we're having are changing, or at least they should be changing. And so that's kind of really what today is about, is like, we need to get ahead of what is happening, and we need to not pretend like we are in the market we were in 12 months ago, because all that's going to lead to is expired listings, them hiring a new agent that finally talks, they finally believe you after 6 months on the market. You've done all the work. You've had all the difficult conversations. Now their listing is expired and now they're ready to move on to another agent. Now that they finally get it, that our market is no longer like it was 12 months ago. So here's a couple scripts for you guys to use during your listing appointments. I always like to tell them, and I can honestly say I have gotten out of the practice of having this conversation. I am going to watch the market continually I'm going to continually watch fair market value of your property throughout the process. If you jump down to number 3, the market analysis that I'm giving you today is really it's a snapshot in time. It's kind of like a moving target, right? And if we are just I took a class one time where they talked about we're going to do, like, most realtors only do like the 3 P's of real estate, which is like place a sign in your yard, put it in the MLS, and pray it sells. And then they talk about, like, we're going to do an additional P's. We're going to price watch I can't remember what the other P is, but we're going to watch what is compared, because as your house comes on the market, there's going to be other homes that come on the market that might be good comps for you. We're going to be watching what happens with those. We're going to be watching, what other things sell for, what other prices that went pending. Are they pending, and closing at $10,000 below asking price? Because I have a seller right now, won't take a penny below asking price. This is the market we're in, is what he tells me. This is the market we're in. So, having that conversation, because this is a really easy conversation to have when you don't have offers sitting in front of you or low appraisal sitting in front of you or any like stressful situation ahead of you. It's a really easy conversation to have. And people are thinking logically and sanely during that time, most of the time, not when they're under the pressure of like, I have a buyer, I want to get it sold, I want top dollar, I have another house I want to buy, it's way more, the payment's way more because the interest rate's higher, and all of that pressure that's coming down on them that has absolutely zero to do with the fair market value of their home. The marketplace is going to show us if we've priced your home appropriately. And then you could follow up that conversation with throughout the listing process. The marketplace is showing us, not, I think, I told you, your house is just, if your house is overpriced or whatever. The marketplace is showing us that that buyers are not willing to pay that for your house. This is what I've done. And I think you have to be prepared to show them what you've done. I think that's also a habit we've gotten out of. Like, what kind of things, when you guys check in with your sellers throughout your listing process, you put that house in the market, what kind of things are you doing to check in with your sellers?
I always pull the listing stats. Like, I'll show them, I'll screenshot the views on Zillow, Realtor.com, MLS. We'll show them that, and then we'll go over how many showings, offers.
If you're getting feedback through showing time, they have a great report in showing time too. That'll include the feedback. What else? How often are you doing that?
About every 2 weeks.
Every 2 weeks. Okay. What else? Just like the overall snapshot of the market. What else? Are you doing that weekly? Yeah. I usually like to tell them, I like to give it like 2 weeks on the market to see what happens and like to build data or whatever, like those websites that report information back to us. But then after that, you'd be hearing from me weekly. I like to record it in a video.
That's cool. Like Loom or you?
No, I haven't. So Vincent, our property management accountant, he is starting to use Loom. And I think that is a really cool, I like Loom. How I do it is I record it in Zoom and I drop it in BombBomb. It is not the most efficient way, and I am not techie, so I don't know if that's the best. Yeah.
Wow, my first one is.
Yeah. And then you can see like when they open it and all that stuff. And I also, one thing I like about it is I can see, kind of freaks me out to be quite honest, because like sometimes there's people here that open my videos like 10 times. And I think this, I'm like, what are they doing? Are they looking at it like, just, is there something on my face? Or, but you can see like how often they opened it. Did they watch it all the way through if you use BombBomb or whatever? So that's usually how I do it.
Watch your videos on now.
Huh?
I better watch.
I know if you do, it's weird. I honestly rarely look at the thing, but sometimes like it's like people that are hardly ever here. And I'm like, they opened that video 10 times. Like, what are they like, what they're looking at? Yeah, I don't, there's a lot of analytics in BombBomb, but I don't look at all of them. I'm letting them know it's my job to guide you through our changing market. And like, our market is like kind of odd right now. I'll never force you to do something. My job is to give you the information, to educate you on what's happening so you can make the best informed decision possible about how we can get your home sold. What was the last one on there? Oh, and then I'll like another thing I think we probably got out of the habit of is getting to their motivation. Is, my job is to get you to that warm weather you've been talking about. And letting them know that, like, that might sound like a cheesy thing to say, but like that is, if we're not getting to their motivation, it's pretty difficult to get buy-in on a price reduction if you need it. And so asking them, like, where are you going after this? What's that? Why is that important to you? And telling them, like, it's my job to make sure that you accomplish that. How we do that is by getting your home sold. I mean, obviously, if you're not doing anything and you've got like crappy iPhone pictures up there and aren't doing anything to help their listing, yeah, maybe you're not doing your job. But a lot of times, like, us not doing our job is us not communicating because we're afraid of how they're going to interpret it, or they're afraid that they're going to be mad when we tell them not so great news. But that's our job. Just like it sucked when we had to tell buyers, hey, they didn't pick your offer. It kind of sucks when you tell them, hey, we're not going to get the top dollar for your house. Also, in the listing appointment, I would be very, very careful. There's kind of this school of thought of like, we'll try your price first. I would be very, very careful about that in this market, because have you ever heard that where, like, I'm going to make up some numbers. Like, let's say you tell them their house is worth 360 and they're like, we really had our heart set on 400. And so you're like, we'll try your price. So you try it at 400. Maybe this is extreme, but you try it at 400 and you end up there, you're reducing it. Now you're at 360 and you get an offer at 350, just like Mackenzie said, these offers. And they said, we've already given up $40,000. And they say that. And I'm like, and you can't, at that point, you can't be a jerk and say, well, have you? I mean, have you really that $40,000 did not exist. Let's be real. That was like and so I think you have to be really, really careful about allowing them, because in their brain, they've already reduced like this substantial amount. So you have to just be really careful about that.
Well, it compounds too for people that bought homes 2 years ago that already want to sell it because they don't have nothing to give up. Or
Right.
they're not making as much as they thought they would.
So, I mean, how do you navigate through that conversation of like, hey, we bought this house 2 years ago. I'm not really digging 2 months of rain, so I'm out of here. I work remotely anyway. It's on my house, Jeremiah. I know I bought it with an FHA loan.
Well, you just have to be consistent. Like, I was lucky enough to start in this business at the very beginning of 2019, where I think things were normal still.
Sure.
Right. And so, like, I've been trained by you from the get-go to have the conversation out of the gate. You can control 3 things: price, well, there's 3 things to selling a home. You got price, location, floor plan, and condition. Pick 3 of those, because no one's ever going to get all 4.
Right.
And price is really the only thing you can change at the end of the day.
Yeah. I mean, if you like, in this market where things are becoming more competitive, you better be in good condition. Like, this is not the market for throwing things on the market with, holes bashed in and, oh, we're still working on things and we're in the middle of a remodel. This isn't really the market for that. So assuming that it is in the best condition possible without being, not cost effective. Yeah, price is really you can't change the floor plan. You can't change where it's located.
It'll sell eventually.
Everything will sell. Your dad, I love to like incorporate a Kaibiism in every class. He would tell me there's an ass for every toilet seat. There's an ass for every toilet seat. It's just according to what price. Okay. Yeah, everything will sell. I'm a big advocate for giving a range as opposed to an exact number. How do you go when you guys do pricing recommendations in your listing appointments? How are you presenting that to your sellers?
Sam, give them the 3 options. Let me just show them that.
Sure.
I usually always, I give them a pitch sheet. Never give them the highest.
You give them the highest
I
price?
never do.
Oh, okay.
So when I do the net sheet, I give them the lower price. And say if you get more, it's like their expectations.
Mhm.
So I say, this is probably realistic. You might get more. If you do, just add that much. to it.
I'm a little gun shy to be, and this is my own personal thing that just happened one time, so I don't know why I'm gun shy on giving that she had listing appointments.
Yes.
Because I lost a listing before because they said your fees are way higher. And it was because I include things like that, are real things like heating inspections and things like that. And the person that I was competing with did not include things that would actually, I mean, they were very, very basic, like title insurance, commission, like closing fees, but nothing else, no. And this was like a long time ago, so I've always been really, gun shy about providing a net sheet at a listing appointment. And so instead I usually tell them it's about 2% plus commission. Is what they, and then, you know.
We did remember. But I do need to.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I definitely do it at the time of listing, but not usually until the. And I just like to give them generalizations other than that, because they were taking two net sheets and comparing them side to side. And they're like, your fees are higher. And I'm like, no, I just accounted for things that are actually gonna be expenses in your, like, they didn't even account for like a well and septic test or anything like that. And so just kind of an interesting lesson. And by that time they had already signed another listing agreement.
Sure. I think that's where you can do the Chris Voss accusations audit and get ahead of the problem before it comes up and just let them know, hey, we realize sellers don't love surprises unless the surprise is you're getting a whole bunch more money than you said you were. And we just want to give you a realistic scenario. And there's some other agents that won't give you a realistic scenario on the hopes that they get the listing over another licensee.
That's a great script. You guys should write that out. I mean, it's a great, like, sellers don't like surprises. Okay. I love this conversation. My house is unique. I just had this conversation. The landscaping on my house was $50,000. Not on mine. It's probably gonna have to be. You're like, it's not that good, Devin. No, it was a client of mine, $50,000 in landscaping. Or they're like, that deck cost me 30 grand to build.
Wasn't that an initial quote for yours?
It was $30,000, yeah. Mike lost his driveway. And I'm probably gonna have to rip up the back anyways, because now I need a French drain because it won't stop raining. Has anybody had failing septics? Failing septics. I am like scared of septics now. Now I'm actually recommending to my sellers that they test the septic before they list.
Well, yeah, you should get it pumped.
That they shouldn't get it pumped because that's not gonna help us.
What's happening again now, that happened 3 or 4 years ago, is it's 1,000-gallon septic and they're pulling 12 because the leach field is still in the septic.
Oh,
So
yeah.
they should pump it and then let it.
If it's,
refill.
unless it's vacant, that
Right,
might, yeah.
Right,
If it's vacant, I wouldn't do it, but. We just had this, same thing. They built the kids' playhouse in the back. Like most of you, like, I think they could Airbnb this kids' playhouse. Like, it's that cool. And they're like, it cost us $20,000. Does that make their house worth more than 20?
No.
It's actually a turn on to some buyers that there's a huge playhouse in the back. that
Right.
they're not gonna use.
Sure,
yeah.
I would make it my office. It's really cool. They ended up taking it. They moved it, which who knows how much that cost. But how do you account for that when you're pricing? Like, and they say like, I have all this stuff. Or my favorite one is, I just replaced the roof, for example. When we're pulling comps, we're assuming that you have a working functional roof. Does it increase the sellability that you have a new roof and they're probably not gonna have to worry about it for the next 30 years?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, that might be the reason they choose your house over another house. Same thing with landscaping. Yes, your landscaping is amazing. It is probably gonna be the reason your house is picked over another house. It's not necessarily going to yield you a whole bunch more money. I put in-ground sprinkler systems on there for you.
Don't
It's,
ever. do it.
it's just funny because like when Jeremiah first started working here, I had a house listed that had an in-ground sprinkler system, and in this house, same thing. It was kind of like overbuilt almost. Like it had like those shutters on the inside that you like see in the South. They were like, and he told me it was like $23,000 worth of shutters. And they're beautiful, really cool, but like, I don't know that makes sure, and the house was kind of weird. So I'm like, I don't know that like is like a trade-off for the weirdness of the house. And so we're talking about, and I was like, and then it's got an in-ground sprinkler system. Who the heck would install an in-ground sprinkler
And I
system? And
still-
Jeremy was like, I was like, and then now we put in our lawn in early June. And I'm like, I wish I had an in-ground sprinkler system, but now I do. It's just not an intentional one. Yeah, I do not have to water at all. Okay. The question we always get, like, I want to try it on the top end. So like, let's say you give them a range of 370 to 400. Let's use those numbers. I mean, maybe this is a little bit less relevant in those price ranges. Let's go to let's say 470 to 500. And they say, we want to try it. Can we just try it at like 515? People are still buying houses, right, Jessica?
Yeah.
I mean, the market's still busy. It's interesting, like the information that they remember, based on what has happened. They're buying a house, they're like, the market's tanking, everything, prices are getting cut in half. And it's like, they're selling their house, they're like, the market's still hot here. We don't get affected by what's happening in the lower market. It's like, they're very selective in what they choose to listen to. What do you say can we try it on the high end? Let's use that example. You give them a range of 470 to 500 and they say, can we just try it at 515?
Do you ever go into like the appraisal process and how most buyers are gonna have to, count on financing?
Yeah.
You do, okay.
Yeah, absolutely. That was part of my two parts to selling a house. The buyer has to agree and the bank has to agree, the bank meaning the appraiser typically. And I would tell them like, and this is an honest answer. We just went through the most amazing market I've seen in almost 20 years in the business. And I still only saw 2 times where people paid over appraised value.
So when they're wanting to list at that top dollar, because it's appraised at that top dollar, then you could be at the very end of the transaction. And that's when you're gonna have to deal with that lower price.
Sure.
So why start out at that higher
Yeah,
price?
like you've already started packing boxes.
Yeah.
And then I mean, you could go to a strategy of doing a market analysis. I learned this one, what's his name? Ed Erickson. He told me, like one time we were talking about listing presentations and I was showing him what I did. And he said, well, this is what I do, which is way more simple. But I think this is a scenario where a strategy like this could work. And you print out like good comps. You got to actually look at these comps. You just can't like click through and be like, yeah, that looks good. Wood-filled, Big Lake. Like, no, you actually have to know what you're doing. So you look at your comps and, and utilize your fellow realtors and say like, hey, do these comps work? And like, give them the comps and say, like, these are the 3 very best comps I found for your house. Most appraisers are using stuff that is less than 6 months old. So these are closed sales, less than 6 months old. This is the information the buyer's realtor has the access to the same exact information I do. And that's the same exact information that the appraisers have access to. What would you pay for this house?
So then you're not the bad guy.
Yeah. What would you pay for this house? Are you still going to pay $50,000 more? Knowing that our market is probably not going to see substantial appreciation in the next year. I mean, maybe it will. I don't know I have no crystal ball. I only know what's happening today. But trying it on the high end, if you're going to say yes to this, what would be your stipulations of it? What kind of time limit?
Like,
3 weeks.
I was gonna say 2 weeks and a certain dollar amount that they already agreed to in advance if they're gonna look at too. So you're not revisiting the whole conversation.
So it used to be a really common practice to pre-negotiate price reductions. We got out of that habit because the market was like, nope, we don't have to do that. That's super, this house is going to be sold before you even can upload your paperwork to your broker. Like, so that's not going to happen. I mean, not always. And I think we're seeing less and less of that happening. So you say 2 weeks or 3 weeks?
3 weeks, no showings, no offers. The market's topping. It's not that. Your home isn't being seen. It's not that the marketing is out there. It's the fact that. No buyers want to make an offer in home.
What if we have showings but no offers? So like that really speaks.
Oh, I've got a listing right now. It's
Yeah.
in the market with 26 showings.
So then they're clear.
I've had multiple conversations. Their motivation level isn't high enough yet or painful enough yet to keep dropping.
So Jeremiah, you just have a conversation. It's some people think, 3 weeks.
I think that might be a strategy that we start talking about is like a pre-planned, a pre-negotiated price drop. And I would say, like, I'm not going to do this until I confirm with you again, but this is what, I mean, then it's already in their brain, what they want to, what we're going to do. And we'll talk about like strategies for reducing prices. I did do a couple price reductions during like the really intense market. Just people that were just way out. Like, I'm like, you guys are really dreaming. So we did a couple of them. And during that market, I said 2 weeks or 10 showings, no offers. I mean, we're going to be having a conversation about a price adjustment. Now I say 3 weeks or 10 showings. But then you always have your people that say, I just don't need to sell that bad.
Yeah.
I just don't need to sell that bad.
After 10 showings. And they're still not motivated enough to.
And I have my one that I'm thinking of, I have had one price reduction on it. And so we'll talk about the amount of the price reduction, because I think that makes a difference. I almost think if you're not going to make it enough to make a difference or to place it into a new buyer pool, it's almost not worth doing. I think people are making lowball offers. Has anybody written a lowball offer lately? Yeah.
For myself.
For yourself. You're like, buyers? No, we don't do this, but yeah, I learned from Jessica and Kelsey's favorite client. I learned from him.
And
And Jeremiah's favorite client. That he told me, if you're not blushing when you submit the offer, it's not a good offer. He's like, if you're not totally embarrassed about what you're about to submit, then we'll tell you later.
It rhymes with
I
the-
just wanted
Thanks, Daddy.
Residential investments. Okay, 4 signs. And so I think this is a conversation. I think this is a fun way to present the information. Here are 4 signs that you need a price reduction. When I was making this slide, I even thought this would be a great video, like for you to have, like just pre-record it, wear your best outfit, get your makeup good, and just have it to where you could send it. Like you don't have to re-record it over and over and over. So here's 4 signs you need a price reduction. 1, your nearby comps are much lower. I know that we wanted to start at 400, but all the homes around you that have similar square footage are $50,000 lower than you. All you're doing is helping sell these other homes. You're making these other homes look like killer deals. And are they? I don't know. You're just making it look that way. There are not many showings. How do you guys feel about the amount of buyers that are out still in the market? Are people still out there looking to buy? I feel like that too. I have plenty of buyers that are out there looking if they find the right thing. So what that says to me is if they're not looking at yours, there's a problem. If you are getting offers, but they're low, and you're just like, no, I'm gonna wait it out. It's only been 1 day on the market. And so you're getting offers and they're low, price reduction. And then the last one is exceeding average days on market. So the only way to pay attention to that or to know that is to pay attention to what the data says. So I know you guys do like the TMO or whatever, which is a super cool report. I wish I could get my hands on because it's like you can only have like one brokerage for it per area or something like that. It's a pretty cool report. We have something very similar to it. It's directly the data. We do it every Monday. It's directly the data out of the MLS that shows us. And what I look at is I like to look at that column. I rarely use this column for anything, but the second column over that says how many homes have pended in the past 7 days, I look at those days on market because I think that's the most relevant information. So if my home is 375, I'm going to look in that 375 to 400 price range. And we'll look at one of these reports. Actually, it'll just make it easier. We just look at it really quick. I don't know what's happening. We were just talking about what Jeremiah said, things that control why a buyer buys a home. Location, floor plan, those are fixed. We can't typically fix that. I mean, there's very rare instances you could fix a floor plan issue. Like I've seen like where they busted out a wall because they they wanted to make a bigger bedroom. So they made 2 bedrooms, 1 bedroom, and maybe you could put a wall in there. So now you got a 4-bedroom instead of 3-bedroom. Those are rare instances. And typically not ones that are going to affect much. Condition and price, those are the things that you can control. So one, we got to start at the listing appointment of like, how do we make this home put its very best foot forward? And then 2, like price. We can't change that this home is on Potter Road. That's just one that's one or in Willowa. We can't change that this is, but the only thing we can do to combat any objections we would receive about it being in Willowa would be price.
Take the little while out of the home, but you can't take the home out of the
Yeah. I like this one because it says biggest home seller mistakes, showing availability. That's an annoying one to me, but I don't think that's typically that big of a problem. That annoys me. I'm like, you said you want to show your home, but you have like a 3-hour window every day, and you want 48-hour notice. Cluttered space is one. Unwilling to negotiate, unpleasant odors. That's an obvious. Won't make repairs, but 77% overpriced the home. And I think this is going to be more relevant than ever, but I want to look at that. Okay, so this is the report I'm talking about. So this is the column. This is the one from Monday too. So if we look at like the 350 to 400 range, in the past 7 days, there's been 11 homes that went under contract. And this is just the core area of the valley. So in those 11 days, this is kind of a surprising number. From the date it was listed until the date it went under contract, the average days on market was 45.
Well,
Pretty high.
comparatively.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, it feels high right now. And so, yeah, the people that are calling panicking because their house has been on the market for 5 days and they don't have an offer. I mean, that one seems really nice.
Seems really, like,
There was probably some outliers in there.
There's probably some weirdos that like, maybe went to the 100 days on market and kind of skewed the numbers. If you look at this 275 to 300, those 5 homes that sold under contract last week, they were 10 days.
yeah. I pulled last week. And
This is wild.
And there were 12.
So there have been 2 homes that have sold in the past week that are 750 to $1 million, and they took 3 days.
Impressive.
Oh, great. This is Washington.
No. This is what from Walmart, Houston, Meadowlands, Why?
I'm like, wait a minute.
That's really interesting. You know what that tells me? No matter what happens in the murder, people have money stolen. Nice homes still.
Yeah.
There's one for $1 million.
I was looking at how much I'm not like it's not the church of Detroit.
Oh, it's not a big piece of property.
It's on the lake. You go to church and then you take a left. Highway. Yes. Yeah.
I was just shocked.
I would say, I
I don't know, have dollars on my figure, yeah, not finished on mine. And I don't care what the comments on Facebook are, that home is amazing. Really, there's something like that. They are, sometimes. Yeah, go and comment on it, yeah, it's like something. There's very listings between $750 and $1 million. We should be talking about, this should be a huge piece of your listing. Right. That's just pending in the past. So there's been 10 homes over $1 million that have sold in the past. This is the past 7 months. Which, 50 days, then, so what if you get a house that somebody wants to list at $1.2 million, only wants to do a 6-month listing?
Want to rethink that?
Yeah, because I mean, kids are gonna spend more money on $1 million. Hey, Maddie. Yeah. I mean, so proud of the maps. We looking for the maps of where I want the home should be. It's directly from MLS. I'll show you.
You can actually, if you don't want to use this report, you can pull the data directly from MLS. It comes directly from this. This isn't, these don't match. This is from an old one. But I like to use this calculation often, to calculate, how much inventory do we have on the market? Because I think this is really relevant. And the calculation is over here. So if you want to take a picture of that, but let's use current data. Where's my phone? What price range do we want to look at?
That is, no, that's not. Let's do 4450. So 4450, so we currently have 38 active homes on the market. And in the past 6 months, there's been 117 homes sold. So if you take 117 and you divide it by 6, that's 19.5 homes per month that are selling on average. We have 38 homes on the market. So 38, and if people continue to buy at the same rate they have been for the past 6 months, we divide that by 19.5, it's still less than 2 months on the market. So you've got a house in this price range and it's been on the market 75 days. Why?
So the price.
Smells like.
What's the better way?
Colton had a listing at some of the Christmas.
Market projects the pricing. Not you. It's not you. I mean, trust me, like, we would all sell homes for top dollar. We get paid on commission. And that's why some people are like, you just want fast sales, whatever. And I just want you to sell the house. And that's our job, like, to tell you. It's also our job to tell us what we believe a house could appraise for. Because it doesn't really do us any good to get a buyer to agree. Maybe we get one of those fancy buyers from California that thinks all of our real estate is super cheap. And they don't care what the price is. It's way cheaper than anything. I mean, like somebody was showing me the other day, what's that? Mesa. It was like a little 1,100 square foot ranch for 800 grand. Yeah. So, I mean, yes, our, 2,000 square foot house for, on 2 acres for 650 seems like a steal. Even though I'm not sure that it actually is.
So I'll send you, or I'll show you that calculation again. But I talk about this calculation when I do those videos to them. I talk about this when I do the listing, but I also talk about this calculation and I'm like, hey, okay, so we are in that, 400 to 450 price range. So this is what we're looking at. There's been 117 homes in this price range that have sold in the past 6 months. That shows us about 20 homes on the market. There's 38 homes or 20 homes per month they're selling. There are currently 38 homes on the market. That's less than 2 months of inventory, and we are over 2 months on the market. So we've got to kind of do some Sherlock Holmes investigation of like why that is. Your home looks great. It's showing great. It's not in the greatest area. It's 12 miles up Kinnick. Some people are, don't love the commute of that. Chances are that's probably why they're moving. That's another great question. Great question for them in the listing appointment is, if you were gonna stay here, like what would you do to the house? What would you be doing to the house? Or what are the things that, what are the objections you had when you bought this house? Sometimes they'll be a little, antsy about that. Got like 10 minutes now. I don't know what's happening with my. We talked about this. I use this as a general rule of thumb, 3 weeks or 10 showings, no offers. We're going to be talking about reevaluating the price or making some sort of adjustment to the price. Is that okay with you, Mr. Seller? Just agreeing to that conversation up front. I think for us, like, communication is really the key. If we're not communicating with them, and just no news. So I haven't talked to you because I have nothing to say to you. That is where you get the people calling your broker saying, they haven't done anything. How do I cancel my list? And I'm not going to argue that if you really haven't communicated with them. And so I think the best way to stay sane, systems equal sanity. So have a system that Jeremiah said, I communicate with them every 2 weeks. Tell them that up front. And if you tell them that up front, you better do it. You do what you say you can do. If they call you and ask you additional questions, fine. But if they call you at, week 1, you'll be like, remember, we talked about this at the time we started the listing. I'm going to be communicating with you every 2 weeks. I'm going to be giving you like a synopsis of the showing feedback. We're going to be looking at what other comps have came on the market, what other homes have closed that are like your property, and seeing if we're still priced according to fair market value. Okay, so price reducing strategies. Number 1, act quickly. I think, maybe they have their super unicorn shoot for the moon price. I don't think they get to try. Maybe you have that. Like, I don't really know. Maybe it truly is a unique house. And you're like, the comps are kind of all over the place. And I don't really know how the market would react. Have you ever had the market kind of surprise you too? Where you're like, there's no freaking way. And then you're like, sold the next day.
Yeah. In February.
Yeah. But I think the right time for the price reduction is 2 to 3 weeks into the listing. You should really strive to only reduce once. Homes with more than one price reduction, yeah, they do send a message of like, people are not liking this house, which starts to like cause this like indirect internal dialogue that when I go to sell this, people aren't going to like it either. Regardless of what I plan to do the house or what's the market's doing during that time, they're like, something's not okay. The market doesn't like this house. I'm not sure if I should. Even if I do, I'm not sure if I should, because nobody else likes it within the market. Okay.
Something every 10 days.
So I have used that script. I have to tell you, I just don't know that it's effective. I've used it. And I think if you can get, there's like the saying of like getting people to write offers. They say it creates inertia. I think getting them to reduce at all does create inertia, and it does, it puts them on the hot sheet, gets them back on the hot sheet. It'll send, a lot of times people will pick it up in the reverse prospecting. So there are benefits of small price reductions. But it's just sure. Yeah, no, I've seen it before. Mary Vincent actually was really big on, she would do price reductions in increments of $500 to put them back on the hot sheet. I'm not sure if that's effective or not, but I mean, Mary Vincent was an agent for a real long time and retired in Hawaii, which is. Okay. I'm not sure if that's going to work for this market. Yeah, sure. Have you guys ever had the seller that called you and said, we changed our mind, we want to price it higher, and it's already on the MLS? It's the worst. It's the worst. Obviously paying attention to what other surrounding properties are doing, like, hey, your house is almost identical to a house 3 doors down that's for sale. They just reduced $25,000 and they have a yard and a fence and you don't. And now we're bored. Like, do we want to be the reason they pick this house because it seems like a great killer deal? Or do we want to be like competitive with this because you sit on a better lot or something like that? How do you guys, when they say, okay, fine, we're ready to reduce, warm me down, how much? Is this like a pull it out of your ass type number? Or is this like, do you have is there like a methodical way you explain this? Let the debt sheet? Well, I don't like to go to that because what they need is irrelevant to what the market will pay. And I don't ever want to put it in their mind of like, what you need is tied to what the net sheet.
What about pending?
Pending listings is great.
Set the number in their head.
Oh,
They say go to the net sheet. It's giving you-
that's already lower.
Yeah.
I like that. I like it.
Well, it's managing their expectations.
Remember the net sheet we talked about? That's what this is look like at this price because we started higher. I like
Listening to the market and
that. Does anybody use a percentage or do you use like increments? I always try to go back to that, this is directly from MLS. This is what we use, the same exact price range. And they use this. I've asked MLS where they got this from. And they said it is increments in which buyers shop. I'm not sure that they narrow it as close to $10,000 but maybe as you notice it, when it gets under 200,000, they go in increments of 10. I never like to be at the bottom of a price range. So like the worst price I think for a house is 305. Because even at, I don't know, what are interest rates, Sean? Okay, so even at 5.5, is the payment between 305 and 350 that much difference? Yeah, they're gonna pick the 350. So I would rather be at 299 and have people in that where that is the tip top. I think people are still spending like as much as they possibly can on a house because prices don't seem to be getting like a lot, still like they're still selling 1,800 square foot ranches for 500 grand, brand new ones, which is a lot of money. So I like to be at the top of a price range. If you're looking at those increments, if those increments are actually true, which I think there's some truth to that. I like to be at the top. I hate like 305 is my pet peeve of the number, or 405. 399 is much better because you're capturing, it's not that the people that are in the 450 range won't look at that, but the people that are in the 399, if they would actually accept 399, won't look at it if it's 405. Because it's
would you list it at 399
or 400. I mean, I think there's something psychological about 399. I would probably list at 399.
I like.
Sure.
I think Omar's look at maximums and set minimums.
Yeah. And it depends like how they're searching, like what, I think most of the time they do put in, you can just usually put in a maximum, not a minimum, or some of them have the preset ranges already. But yeah, I don't like the 305s, the 405s, the 505s. Those are the worst for me.
Well, 305, $653.
I really hate that one.
Take it again.
I don't know what the, I've heard, so, Sherry, we had a conversation about this one time. She tells them when I ask, I only want to ask you for a price reduction once, it's going to be 5%. 5% is a lot. 5% does not sound like a lot. 5%, but 5% is quite a bit. I mean, if you're talking like $400,000 house, you're talking about going from, 400 to 380 or. What do you guys say? Or do you just pull out a number, 10 grand? Like,
If I'm the seller, I would want the small increments because it would hurt us. putting myself in.
And then, well, like, but you got to think, like, do we want it to hurt less or do we want to get you to Texas? Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, and I think some of it comes from like, we have to like get in these habits of having these conversations. The more you believe it, the more confident you'll come across when you deliver it. But we have to have the conversations because you guys have heard me say this 100 times. What people are like, oh, we don't like to practice. We don't like to script practice or whatever. You're script practicing whether you think you are or not. It's just you're script practicing on your clients.
So when you say you wanna go to Texas and you want 300,000, well, I wanna go to Texas, but I don't want to.
But I don't want to what? Give it away. Yeah. And I'm also a firm believer in like houses sell what their market value is. So I think even in this market, if I took, let's say a $400,000 house, like a house that would sell for 400,000, it's a great, house at 400,000. And I price it at 300,000. I still think the ending price will be 400,000.
Yeah, I don't believe you can underprice.
Yeah.
I think
No,
I think
I-
you can definitely overprice them, and it could be harmful and
Mhm.
end up netting the sellers less because you're trying to chase the market.
Yeah, and people are so afraid of underpricing that they overprice. And I do think overpricing has way more unintended consequences than underpricing does. Because yeah, if something's a good deal, especially right now where things don't feel like good deals anymore, like things don't feel like great deals, how great would it be? Because what happens is that good deal sucks them in and then human nature kicks in and they want to win. And they're like, no, I want this house. I know that we're overbidding or whatever. So it's like, we've got to kind of tap into like the psychology of sales, more so than maybe we had to 12 months ago.
I think it's important what you're saying, the psychology of sales is to remember that there's three types of people. There's like visual people, auditory people, feeling-based people. And if you are able to figure out what they are, you'll have a better opportunity to come across as pure. Because I think when you come down to this, it's depending upon whether you want a referral from this person also at the end of this whole deal, or if you want them to be a client again. And it's so sometimes when you have somebody who's like a visual person, like more of these sheets and graphs and actually them understanding that rather than speaking to them. And then if you have a feeling-based person, is this little extra $10,000 and you have to be here another month while your family moves to Texas? Is it worth $10,000 to you right now? Or is it worth $10,000 you being with your family? I think it's important. The psychology of sales is literally this whole thing, because this whole thing is something they really don't want to do, but how you can make it all come across and play across, whether you get a referral at the end of the day or you get a return client at the end of the day. But understanding them better will help you to get that.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. And whether you look at it from like the auditory, visual, emotionally driven people, or you look at it from like a DISC perspective, or whatever kind of, way you looked to, because everybody's different, and like how you would approach this information or use this information and present this information is going to be different. Based off of what your client is like, if you want to really develop that connection so you can get those referrals. Because sometimes, I have clients that I have done multiple deals with, and we have had some really nasty deals. And sometimes that's your biggest opportunity to like deepen the connection with your client, is like going through those crappy situations. And being able to deal with them, deliver that not so fun information in a way that like resonates with them, whatever that means. Like I'm a pretty I'm like just giving the facts, type person. And there's a lot of people that would be extremely put off by that, like how you present. So I think we have to pay attention to that. I think we're going to have to pay attention a lot more than we have had to pay attention.
If there's anything anybody takes from today, it's over communicate.
Yeah. Over communicate, know your client. find like actually like really spend some time with them, like locating their motivation, their why, like, why are they doing this? I mean, I do have a client right now that he's like, it would be cool to like sell my house. I have like something else I want to do, but I don't really have to do it. I don't really care if I do it. That's important for you to know before you go drop $1,000 on marketing. Because then at that point, it's a business decision for you. You're like, hey, this is going to generate a ton of calls. It's worth it for me, or whatever the business decision might be for you. But you finding out 60 days into a listing that they don't really care if they sell their house, and you don't even have a clue of where they're going next. It's not a fun place to be, because you have totally lost your leverage as a professional at that point. Like why they need to sell it.
I think what would be running to as the market changes is people that.
So what conversation is that?
That's a tough one.
It is a tough one.
I mean, I've been burned on people who are renting because they can't sell it. And then they want to sell it, but they can't have a month for the winter stuff. So I've been screwed by that. No-win situation.
I mean, we might not have as many of the problems where, like, did you guys have this I had this problem multiple times where they didn't want to put their house on the market because they didn't have a place to go yet. And they were afraid if they put their house on the market, the house sold, then there wouldn't be a house to buy. I don't know that that's necessarily an issue we're going to have right now. So like, but you still want to know, like, where are you going next? What's your plan next? What happens if that doesn't they're like, we want to move to Texas. Okay. Well, if we're not able to sell your home, what's the, we're not able to sell your home for 500,000, even though I told you it was worth 450. I wouldn't say that part. Like, if we're not able to sell your house for 500,000, what's the next option? Well, I thought, or another one, somebody wants top dollar for their property, and they're like, if I don't get it, I'll just put a renter in there. That's not something I want to know 2 months into the listing. Because then you've just wasted all your time, money, and energy. I mean, unless you are a property manager, maybe you're like, I'm cool with that. But maybe you're not.
Do you put that on the listing agreement? Because my former team put like to be reimbursed for their expenses.
Yeah. So a lot of people here, I mean, you have the option to do whatever you want. But a lot of people here do incorporate some sort of cancellation fee. And that can be like a good thing to bring up in the listing of like, I even tell them, like, if something changes or whatever, and you want to cancel your listing with me, no questions asked, you just have to reimburse me for my expenses. I would recommend putting a dollar figure on that, because then they might be like, well, I never told you to spend $1,000 on pictures or whatever. But like, I've seen anything from $500 expiration or, cancellation fee to I've seen $1,500 cancellation fee, and probably depending on what it is. I mean, if you're going to put a commercial sign out there, it's about $500. We were just talking about this yesterday because we were doing the interviews for campaign interviews, and they were talking about campaign contributions and things like that. And I'm like, what's $500 going to do? It's one of those 4x8 signs. That's what it is. And that's if you have somebody that's like helping you out building the stands. Yeah, I mean, they're no joke. Any other final thoughts or questions, or maybe stuff we didn't talk about regarding price reductions? A couple more things before we end that are not related to price reductions. One is it is September. It is almost realtor renewal time. So we were just talking about this in our staff meeting this morning. Your realtor dues did increase by $10. So if you guys want to pay those now, you're welcome to do it. If you have a commission coming up, you want us to pay them for you, we will do that. Just shoot us an email and let us know. We'll do that, but they are due January 1st. And I think they charge like $100 late fee or something if you pay it after January 1st, but $580 is the new amount. And then the second thing I have for you is really a question. Next week, for Technical Training Tuesday. We get to bring back the fun stuff. Jim's bringing all of his fancy equipment, and we're doing the virtual reality class, aren't we?
Next week.
Yeah, so if you haven't been to Jim's showing homes in virtual reality, do you need an extra set of glasses for that too? Would that be helpful? Like the Oculus.
No,
Oh, I was like, I have a set, I just happen to have a set of those. I've never even put them on, but yeah, so it's pretty cool. Jim does a really cool presentation, and that is a 1-hour ECE class. So we are not renewing this year, but the following year, and that creeps up on you faster than you think. And then last thing is, do you guys have any requests for education? We were building out the education schedule for the rest of the year. Looks like we have about 9 spots to come up with. Are there any topics? There might even be some time, depending on what the topic is, for us to even get some of them certified. Are there any topics that you're like, hey, that would be a really cool, I'd like to know more about this. Maybe Jim or I don't teach it, we'll go out and find it. But it's really, really important to me that we provide you guys education that you want and is valuable to you.
What about what you would put on additional terms on a listing agreement?
I think it's saying that something has to be. Conversation that we discuss. Why would you?
Your unique value proposition.
I like that. Mhm. Anything else? We've been, I know this is not a very sexy topic, but we've been talking about this for quite some time. I was doing a fair housing class. Fair housing is becoming more and more. I mean, we see it everywhere, fair and equal stuff everywhere. And I think there's a lot, we see fair housing violations all the time. And I think 99% of the time, they are 100% unintentional. But that would be the worst way to get in trouble, I think. And they definitely take fair housing very, very seriously. So fair housing is one that we've talked about.
I would love to know more about like FHA loans versus VA loans, USDA loans. Apparently, the appraisals are FHA standard. I have clients right now who have the USDA loan, but they can't. There's just so many stipulations. The seller would have to be willing to take care of repairs that we know are going to come up in the appraisal. So I'm going to be able to set realistic expectations, and I don't want to be, because you can offer anything, like you mentioned earlier, for a home, but when we get to that end part and the appraisal blows up because of the loan.
But what you mean, we need a more basic class on the loan.
Maybe we could con Sean into teaching that.
Yeah, another one that's good right now, actually, like last week, the FHA 2-1 buyout. Because what they're doing is, let's set your home price, at 290, and then they want to offer 275. Well, basically what they'll do is they'll pay the 290, but they'll get a credit back for the remaining out. And then that goes towards buying down the interest rate. So the first year, it's a 5%, they'll only pay 3%. The second year, they only pay 4%, and then it goes to their 5%. Which is a good way, because we're still kind of forgiving out there, so we're not, it's a good way. We're gonna price down the home for the seller, because they may be only paying really 275, but they're getting that extra. Basically, what happens is the seller pays for the interest.
What did you call that? FHA
It's a 2-1 buyout.
2-1. I wrote 5-1.
Basically, you're getting the seller.
I made up my own loan. Like I said, maybe we could talk Sean into, yeah.
Really interesting.
It's interesting as the market changes, you'll see new types of loan products pop up just to kind of stay competitive with the market. Any other topics you guys can think of? If you guys think of anything, shoot me a text.
What's your name?
What's her name? Why can't I?
She's on her way out, but
Maud, yeah. Like, why?
I think a good one too would be getting an accountant like, Court Griffin to come in and.
We've had him do that before.
Setting up passports and ways to reduce your taxes, because.
We've done that multiple times, but it's always a good reminder. We've had Kelly Ward here too, which she was awesome. I mean, I'm still like, Kelly Ward is amazing. Anything else you guys can think of? Bonnie, do you got anything? We were talking about getting somebody here to talk about wells and septics, but I was thinking about this. It would be really good to have somebody that also works in Anchorage within the municipality. Yeah, yeah.
Thank you, Devin.
Yes, thanks for coming, Colton.
Yeah, I know, I was like.
I'm making notes. All right, thank you guys. Yeah. If you guys online think of anything, let me know.